All right, how's it going? This video is going to be on trading the IB. If you see trades on the chart that are pre-IB or post-IB or around the 930 open, this video is not on that. So let's not focus on that. This is going to be strictly on trading IB. So at nqstats.com, my website, my platform, it's all free, by the way. IB, it's a bunch of what ifs. If this, then that, right? So if this happens, then what's the probability of that happening? You can go to nqstats.com and click on the drop down and go to IB breaks and read all about that there. But I get a lot of questions about, or such as why do you take or how are you taking like why are you taking a trade before IB closes? I thought IB had to close to give you a trade. Or where are you taking trades in reference to price pulling back, or how are you entering, or just questions all surrounding IB trades in general. So this video, let's go through some stuff, right? I trade in a first and foremost, the stats are not strategies, right? Let's just establish that. Stats are high expectancy profit targets. That is I use the stats in two ways. They're high expectancy profit targets. So if this thing happens, then this should happen X percent of the time. And if it's high probability, it's high expectancy. So I know that in this scenario right here, IB comes up and it closes in the upper half of the 930 to 1030 range, which is IB. So it closes in the upper half. I know that there's a very high probability, 80% or so, that it will break the high. I also know that since the low was made first and the high was made last, that also supports a high break. So low first, high last, closing in the upper half, that favors a high break, an IB high break. So we're expecting IB to break to the upside, hence IB high break expected. Now, that is the profit target, right? That could also be a confluence to an existing strategy. If you're looking to maybe short, let's say something happens and you're like looking to short up in here. Yeah, it worked out today, but with all the data saying IB high break, maybe you wait for the IB high to break. So it could be a confluence to go long. It could be data that you use to avoid shorting or waiting. But for me, I use it in two capacities. I use it as a high expectancy profit target. The stats have very little to do with my entry, right? So I don't really care about the stats when I enter a trade. I do and I don't, right? Like where IB is not going to influence my decision to take a long or a short. My entry criteria is totally live price related. My entry criteria for IB, since IB is a trend continuation stat, so I have entry criteria specific to trend continuation trades. And what and you see me post a lot of charts, you'll see something like this, right? So you have like an up move, a little retracement, and then an up move, and then that's your like IB box, right? So let's just say like this is your IB box, right? So how do I long that? Sometimes I might enter early, and I'll look for that 40 to 60% retracement, right? So that 40 to 60% retracement, I might enter early if it's, in kind of the second half, right? So if we draw a middle line at 10 o'clock, we're in that second half of IB, and I can kind of anticipate that IB is going to close in the upper half. The low is made first. The high is going to be made last. It's before IB closes, I can assume that it's probably going to give me the criteria I need that is going to favor a high break. So I might take a preemptive long. I might not need to wait until IB closes. And so it becomes me looking for my entry criteria. Not going to get into strategy and the tools I use and the stuff I use to enter a trade from entry criteria versus entry triggers. That's not what this video is about. You can make your own strategies, but I do look for trend continuation trades as one piece of criteria is that I need a 40 to 60% retracement of the most recent price leg that has not retraced yet. So this price leg right here, we come up, it retraces. We come up, it retraces. We come up, we haven't retraced yet, and it retraces. Well, where is it retracing to? Well, if we go from there to there, you get right about that 60% retracement, and then we push out. This is at 10:15-ish, 10:14. So we're getting into that close to IB closing. When we're pushing out of that retracement, looking for that trend continuation, I can start to anticipate that IB is going to close in the upper half. We've already set the low. We're going to set the high over here. It's going to favor a high break. Even I can anticipate that even before IB closes. So I'm going to be looking for longs, and I'm looking for my entry criteria, right? My entry strategy. You can create your own, but I'm looking for my criteria and my trigger that makes me enter the trade. And here I had it. So I'm going to take that long up for a high expectancy exit, which would be the IB high, because I'm entering preemptively, right? I'm getting in, I'm front running the IB setup. You could also wait. So you could wait for IB to close out and then look for a retracement and then, run that long too. And some people do. I like to trade with live price. So live price is telling me what price is going to do. The stats are, this is what happens historically, but live price is always paramount, right? Live price is what matters. Live price is going to be the difference between a stat that has a 70% outcome. And so 70% of the time this thing happens and 30% of the time it doesn't. Live price is going to tell you if it's going to fall in the 70% or the 30%. So I'm always looking at live price for my entries. Don't care about the stat for entries. Live price dictates the entries. The stat is going to give me confluence to help me say, okay, I'm on the right side of this because the stat is in my favor. But the stat is not going to dictate whether or not I take the trade. The stat is also going to give me profit target because I know the high expectancy move is to go to XYZ price. So in this scenario, I wait for that pullback, that 40 to 60% pullback. I start to see movement coming out of it. My entry criteria and triggers are met. Take a long and I try to run it to IB high. Up here, IB closes out. Scale it at that near term high, right? That swing high, scale out there. At this time, there was also divergence. So when IB closes out, and it pulls back, I still want it to run the IB high. That's still my goal for that second part of that position. But in this particular scenario, there was divergence with ES where ES ran the high and NQ didn't, and it started to peel back. So in that scenario, I just close out the trade. Right, so going into the next day, here's the next day. Again, this was a 9:30 open base trade. We're not going to talk about that. It's not important here. What is important here is the IB trade. So coming out of that, retracement, 46% pushes up, and then you set the IB high, right? So I'm looking for trend continuation. If this is going to be a trend continuation trade, and you can look at higher time frame to get your bias or whatever you want to do. Trade however you want to trade, but if there's higher objectives, right? Like if, let's say, like prior day high is, up here somewhere, right? Prior day high. So you're like looking to run prior day high or whatever your strategy is. But for me, I'm looking for that 40 to 60% retracement of the most recent price leg that has not retraced yet. So this low to this high, it already retraced. Boom, pushes up. So now from this low to this high, that hasn't had a 40 to 60% retracement yet. We get the retracement, and then there's your pivot low coming out of that retracement. My personal entry criteria and triggers are met. I take my long, and I try to run it to IB high. I get all the way up to the high. It starts to pull back, so I scale. There was divergence here with ES, so I ended up scaling at that first exit. And then taking that second exit up to the IB high break, the high expectancy target. And that's that trade. So I'm entering preemptively. Again, I'm anticipating where IB is going to close using live price. The IB stat is not dictating whether or not I take the trade. The IB stat is a confluence to support my decision. and the IB stat is providing high expectancy profit target, but it is not a deciding factor on whether or not I take the trade. Live price is. All right, moving on to the next day. Today is the 6th of November. So looking at 6 November. So here's 6 November. Again, a 930 trade, not talking about that, but let's look at the IB trade. So price is clearly in a downtrend going for prior day low. Prior day low was, let's see, it's like right here, right? So this red line, prior day low, when we talk about a pivotal low from prior day, there was another pivotal low right here. So these are two major lows, pivotal internal low to prior day, and then prior day low. So two major pivotal lows from the prior session. So now as we start to push down, looking at this downtrend, that pivotal low has not been broken yet from yesterday. Neither has prior day low. We're clearly downtrending, right? So just mapping this out. Downtrend, right? I'm anticipating that IB at this point, right? You're getting into like 1020, 1015, going into that 1030 close to close out your IB. We get this big push up here. So, okay, we're downtrending. If I'm looking for a trend continuation based trade, because IB is trend continuation based trade, it's a trend continuation stat. You're right. You're looking for trend continuation. That's the IB stat. Same with noon curve. It's a trend continuation based stat. So what do I want to see? Well, I want to see 40 to 60% retracement of most recent price leg. Same thing every day. So I'm going to run that out to the unretraced leg that hasn't seen 40 to 60% yet. Because if it's trend continuation, I want to see mechanical price. I want to see 40 to 60%, 40 to 60%, 40 to 60%. I want to see this mechanical retracements and continuations if price is trending. If it's not going to trend, right? So you're coming down and you break this low, but then you come up and you break this high, right? So these are your in control highs and lows at the moment, right? So let's redo this. So you're coming down, 40 to 60% retracement, and you come down and you break this low right here. Now this high is in control and there's no low yet. When a pivot low is made and you get that retracement up, right? Now this is the low that matches this in control high. This is the only high and low that I care about because we've already retraced out of this 40 to 60% from this recent leg. We come up, we retrace, we push down. Now we're coming up to retrace to maybe push down for continuation. There's two things that's going to happen here. We're either going to 40 to 60% retracement and continue down, or we're going to come up and break that high. If we break that in control high, this is just basic price action, then I would be looking for a trend change. And if the trend is going to change, how am I going to get in it for continuation? Well, I would look for a 40 to 60% retracement for continuation up. So that is how I trade mechanically from a price action perspective. Now, looking at this price coming down, pulling up into that 40 to 60% green range of the most recent leg, and IB closes out, right? The high was made first, right here. You got your IB high, you got your IB low. These pivotal lows, the internal low and the prior day low, have not been breached yet. So you have all this pressure to the downside. You have the stat agreeing to the downside. IB has just closed out. And so entry criteria and triggers are met. Take the short, run it to the high expectancy target of IB low. Now, I don't care about taking my trade all the way down into this area. Not interested in that. I'm interested in taking the low-hanging fruit of where the high expectancy target is, and that's going to be the IB high or the IB low. Sometimes I might front run it if I have a good read on price. Other times I might have to wait for IB to close out. But either way, the IB high or low is the profit target, right? It's not IB stat is not going to dictate whether or not I take the trade. Real-time price is going to dictate whether or not I take the trade. And the IB stat is going to give me confluence and a logical profit target. So hopefully this video helps clear up some questions for a lot of people that tend to ask me these questions almost every day. Again, I'm not sharing strategy here. This is within this entry, right? I use, so taking this short right here, this IB based short. To take that trade, I have other data I use for MAE, MFE. I have some custom tools I built for indicators. I look at how much room is left in the hour to move relative to 60-day averages. I look at how much data or how much room is left for the day to move for a 60-day average. So there's a lot of information that goes into play for me to take a trade. So like full strategy is not shared. Also, I spent a lot of time refining it, trading it through years. And even if I were to share it, it probably wouldn't even make sense. And without all the custom tools I have, you wouldn't be able to trade it anyways. And I don't share any of my custom indicators because I've had a problem in the past with people replicating them and selling them. So that is a little bit about IB trades, right? Hopefully this video clears it up. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, take care. Good luck.